In this video, I'll explain how to use the Angular ngClass directive. The Angular ngClass directive allows you to conditionally set a CSS class on a DOM element depending on whether an expression is true or false. So here I have the ngClass directive on this div, and I'm saying the highlighted CSS class should be applied if content highlighted is true. So let's take a look at the component and see what content highlighted is. So content highlighted is a boolean and it's set to false by default. So when the page loads, that CSS class should not be set. Now let's also see what that CSS class kind of results in. So here we're saying anything with the highlighted class has this outline and this background. Up here I've got a couple of buttons, and this first button says highlight content, and it's only to be shown if content highlighted is false, which it is by default when the page loads, and when I click it I set content highlighted to true. And the opposite is here. If I click the unhighlight content button, it only should be shown if content highlighted is true, and when I click it, it sets content highlighted to false. So these buttons kind of toggle back and forth. When one is clicked, the other one shows, and vice versa. So before we go too much further, let's actually see this in action. So I'll load the page, and we'll see that I have some content, and when I click this button, it gets a highlight, and when I click the button again, the highlight is removed. So let's inspect it, and we can see here is the element, and it has no CSS class. So watch what happens right here when I click the button. It gets a class of highlighted, and the highlighted class has these properties just like we defined in our code right here. So when it has that class, it gets the highlighted styling, and when I click the unhighlight content button, the highlighting is removed because this element no longer has the CSS class. So the CSS class of highlighted is being set conditionally depending on the value of the content highlighted property, and the content highlighted property is being toggled here by the buttons. So the ngClass directive allows you to conditionally set one or more CSS class names depending on the result of a JavaScript expression, and you can determine how you want to style things depending on whether something is true or false or has other kind of values. You can test for something has a length of bigger than 1 or something like that, but it's all done via the ngClass directive. If you found this video helpful, you can subscribe to my channel by clicking the red subscribe button right under the video. You can also take a look at my blog where there are many articles and tutorials about web development. Thanks very much for watching.